Hey, what's up guys? This is Still Rain and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be looking at the IFlight Beetle, the build part 2 review. And before we get started, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I've been trying to push out this review for about 3 weeks to almost a month now. And this build has just been cursed with things left and right. It's crashed 3 times. But I'll go ahead and explain it and some of the things I don't like about this frame. And why you should possibly consider these things before you make your purchase. So first of all, we're going to go ahead and get into it, and we'll go from the outside in. We'll start with the build specifications first. Still my favorite props that I use to this day are the Gemfan Flash 5152 propellers. I think they're some of the best props for overall balance, power, and feel up in the air that's possibly out there today. Next, and this is also I guess it'd be my part 2 review on these motors as well. The Emax Lite Spec 2207 2550 kV motors. And before I could say anything, these motors are fantastic. They've literally, one of the crashes I've had with this thing, I ran it straight into the side of a house when a camera connection came loose. So I basically had a video blackout while doing a power loop and went full speed into the side of the house. So these motors just keep going without any issues whatsoever. So with that being said, if you guys notice on the frame itself, it's got a broken arm. And what you guys will notice in this frame is that this outermost bolt hole right here, the arms always break there. The very first time I built this thing and went outside for a quick line of sight, kind of hovered, did a few flips and rolls, it freaked out about 7 to 10 feet above the ground, started going crazy, so I disarmed it. It barely landed on one of these arms and busted right there. Now that could partially be because of these arms here. They're carbonate laminate with a wood center, but what this company also did was anybody that bought these frames, they went to a solid core carbon arm, as you can see there. No more wood laminate. So I thought, okay, I'll wait a little bit longer, push out this review once I get these arms, and not really judge it by the old wood arms that snapped real easy, even though these are 6mm thick. What you guys will notice is that these arms, and I don't know if you could really see it in the light here, always break right there. And if you notice why, it's a main stress riser point because there's not a lot of material around this hole. So it'll always break right there. And if you've noticed, every single one of these arms on here all broke at the same point, this outermost bolt hole. Now, the one where I crashed into the side of the house, yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. It went full speed into the side of the house. The other 2 crashes, one was a loose camera wire, but the other 2 crashes were really mild, and the arms just snap like nothing. And what I mean by that is, here's one of the solid core carbon arms right here. I literally disarmed between 5 and 7 feet above the ground, and as you notice, it breaks in the same spot as the other ones. It wasn't any stronger that I found out. If this thing just barely looks at the ground wrong, it's gonna break. So that's my main issue with this frame design in general. It looks nice and everything, but overall it's not very resilient to crashes. It's not very durable, even though it does look nice. So the next thing I'm going to get to that I don't like about this frame is if you look at it all the way around, it's got no spot to flash your firmware or change any settings in Betaflight. You're going to have to notch out something in the side here for the flight controller, and personally, I didn't do that because of the flight controller I'm using in here, but we'll get into that here in a minute. Next, I'm using one of the AXII Stubby antennas back here, and we'll go into the inside of this flight controller, or this build here. And as you can see here, I use a RunCam micro Swift. Now, I used the original camera bracket that came with it. It wasn't made for a micro camera. I just bent the prongs in right here and sits in there just fine. Doesn't go anywhere. And after the crash into the side of the house and everything else, you know, it lived up just fine. It works perfectly fine, no issues. It's one thing I could say about this canopy. It does protect the internal electronics a lot better. Next is going to be the Matek VTX, Smart Audio VTX, 40 channel, up to 500 milliwatts that I reviewed earlier. Awesome VTX, one of the best ones I've ever owned. Fits perfect in here. It's like a half stack. As you can see here, it's mounted straight to there. It won't go anywhere. That's pretty nice, and it's perfect for a build like this with a canopy because it has a smart audio. Everything could be accessed through the OSD to change your power settings and band and channel. So it's perfect. The next thing you can see down here, it's an all-in-one board. I also did a review of this, finally decided to build it. It's the Ready to Fly Quads F4 all-in-one Vedrfilnor flight controller. Roughly about 70, 75 bucks, somewhere around there, with BL Heli 32 30 amp ESCs built in. And it's also soft mounted on these rubber soft mounts there. And another reason that goes along with this frame and why you guys aren't going to be seeing any DVR footage today is it just kept breaking. I'm kind of over this whole build, at least for now. But every time you break an arm or want to access inside the canopy, you have to take out 4 bolts on each of the corners just to get the top canopy off. And then the arms are also integrated into part of the stack. Those 4 bolts come through the bottom and hold on the arms into the stack here. So it's a real, I'm sorry to say, a real pain in the butt to even change an arm on this thing. It's not easy, you know, especially with all this, especially when everything is soldered on right here, you know, and it's just a real pain. Another thing I didn't like about this frame, I had to kind of, it had 2 holes up here in the top of the canopy for, I guess, your receiver wires. And if you run your receiver wires out of the top, and this happened to me as well, as soon as you give it full power, they'll just suck right down into the props and you'll lose receiver antennas. So what I had to do is get some of these hardened plastic tubes, open up the holes a little bit more and super glue them in just to run these wires out of the top, because there's no other way to really run them on this build. So, you know, not ideal, not the best either, but that wasn't really a game changer. The big deal is the arms. If they would have just widened out the arms at this outermost bolt hole here, maybe a couple millimeters, widened it out, you know, it would have been livable, would have been a lot stronger, but that just takes away so much strength from this arm. If it just barely hits, you know, it's going to bust every single time there. The last crash that I had yesterday, I believe it was a flight controller, and which is why I'm kind of over this build for right now. I had a line of sight in my front yard and did a couple flips to left and right. As soon as I did a forward flip, it just freaked out and started going crazy on me. Now, that's the reason why I don't like these all-in-one flight controllers, because it's kind of hard to eliminate a lot of the problems. It's sitting on Betaflight 3.2 firmware right now. It's stable. And the stock BL Heli 32 settings and Betaflight settings. I'm not sure why it freaked out after my crash into the side of the house. It could have messed up the gyro or something inside of it. Who knows? But after that crash, I also plugged it back in, recalibrated everything, you know, tested everything in the GUI, and it seemed all right. So I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of at a loss with it. I think what I'm going to do is eventually end up getting a different all-in-one board in here, taking this one out. And I'm sorry about that, guys. I couldn't give you any DVR footage because when this thing was flying, it was quick with these motors and props. I mean, unbelievable. Nice and smooth. But like I said, it's just been a cursed build since the get-go. So at this point, pretty much I'm just going to move on from this. Maybe revisit this in a later episode, but as it is right now, you know, a mixture of the problems I've had with it, along with some of the build designs that are fatally flawed, I think, in my opinion, I just don't know. And it's not a bad frame. When I did fly it the couple of times to get a feel for it, it was really quick, really responsive. But like I said, that only lasted for so long. I don't think it was anything to do with voltage. I have a 1,000 microfarad low ESR capacitor put on it because all-in-one boards like this tend to freak out a bit with everything connected into it. And it still has decent movement on the board. Like I said, these are those rubber soft mounts, and still issues with the board. So at this point, like I said, I don't know if it's a gyro, accelerometer, the ESC's freaking out for some odd weird reason, but never had any issues like this on any one of my builds up until this one. So, it is what it is. I'm going to probably revisit this build later, but, as of right now, I'm just completely frustrated with it, especially after trying to get this review out and get some DVR footage, but, that never really happened. So we'll go ahead and get a quick weight of it while it's sitting right here. Turn that on. Make sure you guys can see that there. And I think it's around 330, looks like 319 grams. So, it is pretty decent. Not the lightest, but with these motors and these full-length wires going into here, it added some weight. But, it is what it is, guys. That's pretty much going to be it on this. Like I said, I'm moving on for right now. This one's going to be kind of pushed off to the side. I have some long-range builds and some other things coming out here pretty soon. So appreciate you guys watching. If you did like the video, go ahead and subscribe, like, and share it. And please leave your comments, questions, or suggestions down in the normal place below. I'll see you guys. See you next time.